Which is better tactically, a Star Wars blaster versus a Warhammer 40k lasgun? Both are essentially one-shot stops against humanoid opponents, and both are described as blowing craters in walls, although it's apparently very difficult to make personal armor that's resistant to blasters, not so with lasguns. So blasters might be more powerful. However, lasguns are said to blow off limbs, and blasters don't. However, that could be because Star Wars is regularly Y7 or PG. Dismemberment is a no-go, except for droids. And you could argue that since a blaster can completely vaporize a droid's head, they could probably do similar against meat. So I think a blaster would be more comparable to a high power setting lasgun, at least. And speaking of power settings, both have low to high energy variability, but Star Wars blasters can be toned down to a stun setting, which is, at the very least, more rare in lasguns. Both have a magazine capacity of roughly 100 rounds, but blaster packs are smaller. You could take up like 2 AR-15 magazines worth of space, and then you would have 400 rounds of blaster ammo, but only 200 rounds of lasgun ammo. So if you're going into a fight, you'd be able to carry more ammo with a blaster. Compared head-to-head, it really seems like the blaster has the advantage, but that's not entirely the case. Blasters use energy and gas to fire, so they're a bit more limited on ammunition. However, lasguns just use energy. You could shoot those magazines and then plug them in, and then an hour later, you have more shots. So a blaster would be better for going into a combat situation, fighting, and knowing that you're able to leave. A lasgun would be better for prolonged engagements or where you know that you're not going to get resupplied regularly, which happens in 40k. Lasguns also generally have better range, so with all those things considered, you can't really say that one is better than the other in everything. You just have to compare different categories.